The diamond that glittered on my fiancée's finger in her company's annual report wasn't mine, and the lie it represented was a fissure that would crack our world apart. It began, as these things often do, with a promise of a future built together, brick by careful brick. I'm Thomas, 30, an architectural designer. My world is one of lines, balance, and sustainable foundations, both in my work and in my life. My fiancée, Rebecca, 28, is a public relations specialist for a luxury lifestyle brand. Her world is one of narratives, perception, and curated elegance. We've been a unit for 4 years, a pairing our friends called the pragmatic and the poetic. Our Seattle apartment was filled with my blueprints and her art books, a testament to our blended lives. I proposed on a rainy Friday evening, not on a mountaintop or a foreign beach, but in the kitchen of that apartment, surrounded by the smell of our favorite pasta sauce simmering. It was real. It was us. When she said yes, her eyes shining with tears I believe were pure joy, I felt a profound sense of rightness settle in my bones. The ring I presented was a product of months of quiet research and heartfelt intention. Knowing Rebecca's love for Art Deco design and her disdain for blood diamonds, I had sought out a vintage-inspired piece. The centerpiece was a 1.2-carat lab-grown emerald-cut diamond, its clarity exceptional, set in a geometric platinum band adorned with delicate filigree and tiny, conflict-free sapphires. It cost $4,200. This amount represented a significant conscious allocation from my cornerstone fund, a meticulously managed pool of savings earmarked for a wedding, a down payment on a house, and a buffer against life's unpredictabilities. To me, spending a small fortune on a mined diamond was not only financially reckless, but ethically dissonant with our professed values. This ring, I believed, was a beautiful, responsible symbol of our unique bond. For the first fortnight, Rebecca wore it with what seemed like reverent pride. She'd catch the light with it, smile at it, show it to strangers in coffee shops. Then the excuses began. The setting was a little delicate for the gym. She was worried about the filigree while gardening. It was safer in its box during her commute. The ring spent more time on her velvet tray than on her hand. My gentle inquiries were met with sweet, dismissive assurances. I just love it too much to risk it, Tom. A part of me wanted to believe her, but another, quieter part noted how her glances at it grew less adoring and more appraising. The first seismic tremor arrived with her parents, Lawrence and Diane. They lived in a sprawling, impeccably maintained house in Medina, where conversation was a subtle sport of one-upmanship and implied judgment. Diane, in particular, wielded her opinions with the sharp, effortless precision of a sushi chef. During a strange Sunday brunch, the ritual inspection commenced. "Darling, let's have a proper look at this symbol of your future," Diane trilled, capturing Rebecca's hand before she could demur. She held it up to the gray Washington light, streaming through the bay window. Her smile, a practiced masterpiece, didn't falter. It simply calcified. "Oh, it's geometric. It's Art Deco, Mom," Rebecca said, her voice slightly pinched. "Thomas knows I love that era." "How thoughtful," Diane replied, releasing the hand as if it were mildly contaminated. She turned her gimlet gaze on me. "And the stone? It has a certain coolness to it. Is a Canadian diamond." "It's lab-grown," I said, meeting her eyes. "Ethically sourced, identical in every chemical and optical property to a mined stone." The silence that followed was thick enough to sculpt. Lawrence found sudden, profound interest in the Financial Times spread before him. Diane took a slow, deliberate sip of her mimosa. "I see. A modern choice. And the size is certainly elegant." The word elegant in her lexicon was a deadly euphemism for small. Rebecca retrieved her hand, tucking it into her lap. "I think it's beautiful," she said, but the statement lacked its original conviction. It sounded like a line from a play she was tired of performing. The drive home was a study in quiet tension. Rebecca scrolled through her phone, her thumb moving with agitated speed. That night, as we prepared for bed, she spoke to the darkness. Cynthia from my book club got engaged. Her ring is a 4-carat oval with a double halo. Her fiancé is an investment banker. She paused. My mom showed me the pictures. A cold stone of dread formed in my gut. Are we comparing fiancés or rings, Beck? Neither, she snapped, then sighed, her anger deflating into something worse. Disappointment. It's just people notice. They ask questions. Cynthia asked if yours was an estate piece, like something from a great aunt. And that's an insult? I asked, genuinely confused. I thought you valued things with history, with a story. There's a story. And then there's looking like you can't afford a story of your own, she murmured, rolling away from me. The following week saw a subtle, insidious campaign. Rebecca began leaving browser tabs open on our shared laptop. Pages from Tiffany, Cartier, Harry Winston. She'd accidentally show me Instagram stories of acquaintances flashing gargantuan rocks, accompanied by sighs. The gentle suggestions began. Perhaps we could reset the center stone for our first anniversary? Maybe add a more substantial diamond jacket? Her language shifted. Pepper with terms she'd never used before: carat, weight, color grade, spread. I could hear Diane's voice in every syllable. The pressure reached its first crescendo one evening. Rebecca, her face a mask of strained excitement, presented me with a printed proposal. It was for a ring from a famed New York jeweler. A 3.5-carat, flawless, cushion-cut diamond in a solitaire setting. The price was a cool $38,000. A payment plan was highlighted in yellow. Before you say anything, she rushed, look at the terms. We could put $5,000 down from your fund. Finance the rest over 3 years. The monthly is less than our car payment. It's an investment, Thomas, in us, in how people see us. I stared at the paper, the numbers swimming. Rebecca, this is not an investment. It's a depreciating luxury asset. Our car payment is for a vehicle we need to live our lives. This is a year of daycare. This is a new roof. This is a quarter of our down payment. Her face fell, hardening into something unfamiliar. So, what I want, what would make me feel proud and valued every single day, is less important than a hypothetical roof. It's not a competition. I exclaimed, frustration breaking through. This is about building a stable life. The ring I gave you is beautiful, ethical, and meaningful. If it's not enough, then the problem isn't the ring. It's what you think it says about me. Tears sprang to her eyes, but they were tears of fury. It says you're cheap. It says you prioritize some abstract future over my present happiness. My mother says a man who plans a future but won't adorn his present isn't a provider, he's an accountant. The mention of Diane was the spark to tinder. Your mother's metric for a man's worth is the square footage of his house and the carat weight of his wife's jewelry. I thought you were different. I thought we were different. We slept in separate rooms that night, a chasm of resentment opening between us. The ring sat in its box on her dresser, a tiny, silent monument to our discord. Then came the photograph. A colleague from a firm I company sometimes collaborated with sent me a casual email with a group photo attached. Great seeing your better half at the Silverstone Gala last night. She cleans up nice. It was a charity event Rebecca's firm had sponsored. She'd told me it was a work thing, super boring, you'd hate it. In the photo, she was resplendent in a black gown, laughing, her left hand draped elegantly on the arm of her senior vice president. On her ring finger blazed a colossal, brilliant round diamond set in a thick, modern band. It was vulgar in its size, a declaration of pure opulence. It was everything my ring was not. A cold, sick certainty washed over me. This was not a borrowed piece for one night. This was a choice. When she returned home, humming softly and placing her clutch on the table, I was waiting in the living room, the image displayed on my tablet. How was the boring gala? I asked, my voice dangerously calm. Long lots of schmoozing. Glad it's over, she said, heading for the kitchen. You forgot your ring, I said. She stopped, her back tense. What? In the picture Martin sent me. You're wearing a different ring. A much, much bigger one. Care to explain? She turned slowly. Her face cycled through panic, defiance, and finally, a weary resignation. It's not a big deal, Thomas. It's a costume piece. The VP's wife runs a high-end jewelry rental for events. A few of us from the PR team wore samples for the evening. It was for brand alignment. Brand alignment, I repeated flatly. So you swapped out the symbol of our engagement, the one I spent months choosing to align with your brand, your values, your taste, for a rented sample to align with your company's brand. You're being ridiculous. It was just for show. No one there knows what my real ring looks like anyway. That's the point, Rebecca. I finally roared, standing up. You've been so ashamed of it. You've hidden it away. And now you're literally wearing a prop to look the part for your colleagues. Who are you performing for? Them or yourself? The fight was nuclear. Accusations flew like shrapnel. She called me controlling, said my pragmatism was a shield for stinginess. I called her vain, a puppet of her mother's shallow worldview. We retreated to our corners, bruised and bleeding emotionally. The apartment became a war zone of silence. A week later, the true depth of her betrayal was revealed. My closest friend, Patrick, who worked in the same downtown complex as Rebecca, called me, his tone uncharacteristically grave. Tom, we need to talk. In person. It's about Rebecca. Over a grim beer in a dimly lit bar, Patrick laid it out. His fiancée, Sophia, worked in a different department but shared a floor with Rebecca's team. The office gossip, Sophia reported, had taken a dark turn. The word going around, Tom, Patrick said, avoiding my eyes, is that you're financially abusive, that you have a secret, locked-down savings account you refuse to touch, that you monitor all of Rebecca's spending, that you make her justify every purchase, even her morning coffee. Sophia said one of Rebecca's junior associates was asking her for advice on how to help a friend in a coercively controlling financial relationship. They were talking about you. The blood drained from my face. I felt physically ill. Patrick, you know that's not. We have separate accounts. She out-earns me. She buys whatever she wants. I know, man. I know. But that's the story. Rebecca's been telling people you're using money to isolate her, that you won't invest in her because you don't see her as a true partner. She's positioning the ring as the prime example. She says you're hiding assets to maintain power. The betrayal was so profound it felt surreal. She hadn't just maligned my character. She had weaponized progressive, serious language about abuse to reframe her material dissatisfaction. She had painted me as a monster to win sympathy and justify her demands. Confronting her that night was like navigating a hall of mirrors. She cried. She apologized. She claimed her words were misconstrued. I was just venting, Thomas. I was frustrated. People were asking why my ring was so quirky, and I had to explain, and it was embarrassing, so I might have made it sound more dramatic, so they'd understand my frustration. You made it sound like I'm an abuser, Rebecca. My voice shook with a mixture of rage and hurt. You told people I control you. That's not dramatic. That's a devastating lie. It could follow me. It is following me. But don't you see, she implored, her tears now seeming manipulative. From the outside, it looks bad. You have all this money just sitting there, and you won't use any of it to make me happy in the one way I'm asking. What are people supposed to think? They're supposed to think we're adults who make joint financial decisions based on shared goals. I shouted. Or, here's a radical idea. You could tell them the truth, that you want a bigger, more expensive ring because you care what your mother and your colleagues think. But you can't because that makes you look shallow. So instead, you make me look cruel. That's unforgivable. The final, brutal act was orchestrated with the chilling efficiency of a boardroom takeover. Diane and Lawrence arrived, this time with Rebecca's older brother, Gregory, a hedge fund manager with the smug certainty of a man who believes everything, including love, has a price. They arranged themselves in our living room, a tribunal in cashmere and wool blend trousers. Diane opened proceedings. Thomas, we're here as a family because we're concerned. This rift over the ring has exposed a fundamental incompatibility in your approach to partnership. Lawrence and I have done some research. She slid a printed article toward me. It cited the infamous 3-month salary rule. Given your income, a proper investment in this lifelong symbol would be in the range of $45,000 to $50,000. Rebecca has been exceedingly patient. Gregory chimed in, his tone condescendingly reasonable. Look, Tom, it's about signaling. To her social circle, to her professional network, to the world. The ring is a credit default swap on your commitment. A weak signal suggests high risk. Rebecca's found the right asset. He pushed forward a jeweler's dossier. It was for a ring I recognized, a 4-carat, fancy intense yellow diamond surrounded by a double row of white diamonds. Price, $62,000. The financing is structured very favorable. This is a solvable problem. Your stubbornness is the only obstacle. I looked at Rebecca. She wasn't looking at the dossier. She was looking at me, her eyes pleading, but also expectant. She was part of this ambush. She believed in it. And if I say no, I asked, my voice eerily calm. If I say that taking on 5 figures of debt for a piece of jewelry is the antithesis of everything I believe about building a secure, honest life together, Diane's facade of civility shattered. Then you are telling Rebecca and all of us that you are not a serious person, that you are not capable of the sacrifices required for a true marriage, that her happiness, and the social standing that comes with it, is not a priority for you. Rebecca finally spoke, her voice a thin, determined wire. Thomas, this is it. This is my line. If you love me, if you're truly committed to a life with me, you'll do this. You'll show me and everyone that I'm worth it. Get me this ring. An ultimatum, delivered not in a moment of private passion, but in a staged intervention, with her family as both audience and enforcers. The clarity that descended upon me was absolute and icy. This was no longer about love, or even about a ring. It was about a transaction. They had named their price for Rebecca's hand, and for my admission into their version of a successful life. My principles were the final barrier to the deal. I stood up. The room watched me, expecting capitulation or another outburst. I walked slowly to our bedroom, to her dresser. The velvet box was there, a tiny coffin for my hopes. I picked it up, feeling its negligible weight, so disproportionate to the burden it now carried. I returned to the living room and placed the box on the coffee table, right on top of the glossy dossier for the yellow diamond. I do love you, Rebecca, I said, and in that moment I meant it as a eulogy. But love isn't a line of credit. It's not a signaling device for your social credit score. I tapped the dossier, is a required down payment on a life in your world, then I am fundamentally unable to pay. And I refuse to spend the rest of my life as a debtor in a marriage where my worth is calculated in carats, and my love is measured by my willingness to incur bad debt. A collective, sharp intake of breath. Gregory rolled his eyes. Diane's face purple with outrage. You arrogant, small-minded boy. You're throwing away a jewel because you're afraid of a number. But Rebecca's reaction was the only one that mattered. Her face, for a second, showed raw, unguarded shock, then crumpled into a mask of betrayed fury. You're choosing your stupid principles over me. You're abandoning me. No, I said softly, picking up my jacket and the car keys from a bowl by the door. You and your family are choosing a status symbol over us. You're abandoning everything we said we were for everything they've told you you should be. I'm just declining the merger. I stayed with Patrick and Sophia for a month. Rebecca's messages were a torrent. Angry, grieving, manipulative, desperate. Her family's communications were venomous, accusing me of emotional stinginess, of breaking her spirit. My parents, bewildered but supportive, fielded calls from confused mutual friends. I moved my things out on a Tuesday while she was at a brand immersion retreat. I left the apartment key and a finalized list of how to split our shared possessions on the kitchen counter. The silence when I closed the door for the last time was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. The lab-grown diamond ring is with the original artisan. He's agreed to buy back the stones and metal at a fair price. That money will return to my cornerstone fund, which is now solely mine. The grief is a complex, layered thing. I mourn the woman I fell in love with, the one who mocked pretension, who found beauty in unique details, who claimed to want a life of substance over show. That woman I see now was perhaps a persona or a seedling that was carefully uprooted and replaced by a more socially acceptable cultivar nurtured in the hothouse of her family's values. The fracture wasn't caused by a disagreement over a piece of jewelry. The ring was merely the focal point, the flaw in the stone to which a beam of harsh, revealing light was shown, illuminating the fundamental, irreconcilable crack in the foundation of our relationship. My blueprint was for a life built on integrity, sustainability, and private meaning. Hers, ultimately, was for a life built on display, perception, and public valuation. No amount of financing could bridge that gap. Some structures, no matter how beautiful they appear in the initial renderings, are simply not sound enough to build upon. And a wise architect knows when to walk away from the site, no matter how promising the view once seemed.